So let's just get into it. I want you to talk about where you were born, where you came from, all that stuff, all the way up to where you are now. Just give me a quick brief.
I will run through the gamut of everything because it starts. My dad was in the Coast Guard, so he was stationed in St. Louis, Missouri at the time. He wanted me to be born on a military base, so when my mom was about to have me, he rushed her over to Belleville, Illinois, so I could be born on an Air Force base. I don't know why. I think it was just because the healthcare was free. And then he was stationed after that up in Kodiak, Alaska, so I moved there when I was 2. It's a little island off the south coast of Alaska. Decent time. Spent about 6 years there from the ages of 2 to 8. So, some formative years, but I don't remember much of it. And then after that, moved to Honolulu, Hawaii, which was just an experience. And I spent the ages of 8 to 13 there. And that was very formative years spent in just technically paradise, but it gets old after a while. So my dad retired there, and I was like, I miss Alaska, because really it was all I had ever known, and I kind of missed snow. And he was like, I like Alaska, plus my grandmother and one of my uncles were living in Anchorage at the time. So for high school, I moved up there and did the ages of 14 to 18 in Anchorage, Alaska. Got real bored of Alaska very quickly. It's a lovely place, but the midnight sun and then the constant winter darkness, the not lunacy, but winter depression becomes a real thing when you go into school. It's pitch black. You get out of school, it's pitch black, and you just do that day in and day out. So my oldest sister Daisy was going to SDSU for soil science at the time. She got a grant from the government to work there and get schooling at the same time. And she was like, hey, I don't want to live here alone anymore. So if you're looking for colleges, I was like, I could use a roommate. So then I moved to Brookings, South Dakota, lived with my sister for a few years, just going to SDSU. Didn't know what I wanted to do. Started off doing band, realized I did not want that. Moved on to theater, hated that. And then joined a fraternity, settled down into my English major, and that's where we met up. And so from there, I did just a bunch of years in South Dakota. I think 6 years. That was the first place I lived voluntarily for longer than I needed to. I finished college, and I stuck around because the Sioux Falls music scene was fun. I liked, having my job at Daktronics for what time that I did, and that's where I learned technical writing. And then from there, tried substitute teaching, worked at Best Buy for a little bit, worked at a high chai counter for a little bit, just absorbing adventures. That's where I started doing comedy up in Wooden Legs Brewing Company at their open mic, and then at the now defunct open mic at Rookies. So I started doing comedy there, started playing music by myself there, and then after that, got bored real quick and moved to Reno, where my mom lives. My sister also followed suit because she had done 8 years in Brookings, just Brookings too. So she got bored of that. And now I am in Reno, where I do my weekly podcast, Post Nuclear Reno. I have my former singer-songwriter project turned power pop trio, Sad Giants. I am part of a 2-man comedy crew known as Nick and Bobby Act Weird. Check it out on Facebook. And just getting by with writing and comedy and music and podcasting and the works. So that's the abridged version.
That's a lot of stuff. That's a pretty interesting story. Let's get back to SDSU. I want to ask you, do you by chance remember, now I can't remember if it was first or second semester, because I'm guessing you graduated high school spring 2010, and then you started that fall of 2010.
Yep.
You were we had a class together. I don't know if I told you about this. It was some sort of history, and the teacher was Augustini. Do you remember him?
Yeah, Augustini. He did, was it U.S. history?
I want to say it was U.S., but I don't remember if it was for sure. But we had a class together. I remember seeing you, and I thought you were just one tall, weird guy.
Yeah, because I always sat in the front because I was just like, well, I don't like sitting in the back because like then like I don't have good eyesight. I've had glasses all my life, so I just sit in the front. But I also sit all the way off to the side because I don't want to block anybody's view. So I was always just sitting there like hanging out.
So then let's get into SAE. Why did you decide to join a fraternity and then two specifically SAE?
I mean, really, like there was no method to the madness when I think about it. Like it was, I just sort of Forrest Gump my way through life, as I like to say, which just involves saying yes to life experiences as they come to me. And I never grew up in any sort of organized structure. Like my dad was in the military, but it was Coast Guard, so that didn't count. Don't tell him I said that. So it wasn't like a military family, and I grew up under this hard structure. And my parents weren't religious or anything, so I never went to church or anything. I didn't do much in school because Hawaii was very low on the educational scale in the schools I was going to. And then by the time I got to Alaska, I joined like this weird, now canceled, like, ooh, we're going to take the first half of your day and you're going to learn as you go, fun humanitarian philosophy thing. So, like, I have never been one for structure. And when I met two gentlemen who became the beginning of my first band in South Dakota, the New FM, I met not Alec Baldwin. That's what we always
That would be pretty cool.
Van Hove and Matthew Stevens, who then became my big brother. They were like, hey, join a fraternity, specifically the one we're in. I was like, all right. So I did.
Let's go back into your music, because obviously music has been a big part of your life. Where did that all start? What was your first memory of like either playing or like listening to music and being like, damn, this is cool?
My first inkling of musicality that I now, ascribe to how I am was actually when my mom would listen to Celine Dion in the kitchen. And I would just sit in the kitchen and sing along. And up until now, like I didn't realize that that's where I started. I always thought I started the singing comedian Stephen Lynch when I was in middle school, because I was a big fan of Weird Al at the time. MySpace was getting big, so I was just searching MySpace's comedy genre, because you could just search by random things in MySpace, and I was just looking at the top 10 people in MySpace's comedy and just absorbing all their stuff. And Stephen Lynch was my dude, and he was the reason I picked up a guitar. And other than that, my middle sister Debbie was a percussionist in band in middle school and high school, and I always thought it was cool, so I picked that up from her. So I started off, trying to learn the classical side of music teaching through percussion, and also just strumming weird songs about masturbation to my friends in middle school. So just a nice, fun dichotomy.
So I know this wasn't necessarily musical, but can you please explain for all the listeners that don't know what BAMF Mountain is?
Okay, I didn't realize what sketch comedy was until way after that, but apparently it is a thing. So when I was in high school, I was already telling you about the weird humanities, do whatever you want class that I was part of. It was called HIP, and part of this was you could choose your elective, and I chose video making or videography or whatever. I don't remember, but it was just. We literally all sat in the video room that one of the teachers had, and she was like, okay, by the end of the semester, you need to show me you've done something. And most of the time, we were just screwing around. And so I had a team of 3 other people who, I don't talk to them much, but they are all lovely people. And so we wrote a script and a shot catalog for what became BAMF Mountain, because at the time it was an inside joke, because BAMF was a thing to say at that time, about 08, 09, and one time our teacher who loves film was talking about BAMF, with an N, the like film festival.
Oh yeah.
So she was talking about like BAMF Mountain and stuff, and we were like, BAMF Mountain, and it just made us laugh. So we made an entire dumb like not movie. It was like a little short video out of it involving us climbing a mountain that is to BAMF, and that is the only line I had was this mountain is to BAMF. And we just climbed a snow pile on the side of the high school while saying that over and over again. And then later on, I just spliced in a bunch of weird nuclear explosions. And it is still on YouTube. Look up BAMF Mountain for your enjoyment.
I may have to pass it on to my followers on the internet. What do you miss most? What do you miss most about Alaska?
I do miss there's a closeness to, even though it's a pretty big city, I think it's like 2 million people or something in Anchorage, there's a closeness to it because that's all there is, there. And so the music scene there was super tight. You run into everyone you know all the time. And it was a very nice community, there was nothing bad that ever happened, in my memory, even though I went to the bad high school and, there was gang violence and stuff when you were a child.
Yeah.
Did get chased by a moose once. It was just nice. It's a fun place, and if I ever end up with lots of money later in my life, I wouldn't mind just buying a cabin up there and just living out my days,
Call it good up there, yeah.
Yeah.
So at SDSU, when you started that band, the New FM, what was your plan? When going into it, what were you thinking? What were you trying to get out of it?
Well, I had always been a drummer. When I was in high school, I was like a really awful drummer for a punk band up there, and I got done with that, and I was like, I enjoy being in the front too much. I'd been doing theater in high school and just being a general clown. And I was like, I don't want to be in the back anymore. I want to be in the front part. So I started trying to relearn guitar from the shambles that was my rocky understanding of chords from learning Stephen Lynch songs. And then just started trying to learn Blink-182 songs or cover Jimmy Eat World's The Middle because it's the easiest song in the world. And, I found Matt and Alec and they were like, we'll be your band. And I was like, sweet. And we just started jamming in my sister's basement. I think we did that for a good 2 or 3 years. We brought a gentleman by the name of Chris Muchler, who worked in the bookstore at the time and knew Alec, and he became my guitarist for the whole time that I was there. Cool dude. And yeah, so it was just an inkling in myself of I don't want to be in the back anymore. I need to be the front part because I got things to say. And that said a lot of words for many years, and I continue to say words over and over again.
What was the best New FM show you played?
I'm gonna say Total Drag. That one time that the BBC was randomly in town.
Oh yeah.
We packed the place out. There was a camera crew. I had contacts at the time and long hair, so I was like, yeah, this is rock and roll. And so we just played our little hearts out as a little trio of me, Chris, and then Spencer Schreier. Whoop whoop. Now we're buddies in Reno together again. But yeah, it was fun being just this grungy power trio in a dark all ages record store with a camera crew pointed at us. That was a fun time.
I don't know if I was there for that one, but I know I went to a show at Total Drag.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember because Taylor came and then also Megan and Colin came, and they didn't know what to expect. They knew it was at Total Drag, but they didn't know what to expect. So they were dressed in not like they were nice clothes, but I mean they were normal everyday clothes. And then we walk in and everybody is ready to rock, and they felt like they were a fish out of water. And I'm like, then I told them, welcome to my life, because whenever I go to any show, any metal show, I'm sticking out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, I do that a lot now, especially like I get off of work kind of late, so I'll just like roll into bars or shows and stuff, and I'm wearing like a cardigan and a collared shirt, and they're like, "What is this?" And I stand in the middle of the room and start throwing elbows.
Is there much of a music scene, as in for shows, come through Reno?
It is a weird place because there is lots of entertainment, not all of it good. Because there is the casino scene, so there's loads of cover bands and like dudes in their 50s trying to play like 80s arena rock like it's a new thing. It's crazy, but at the same time, there's like a thriving little underground scene here at like the Holland Project, or I'm playing at the Saint a lot, which is a cool place. There's punk venues like Jub Jubs and I guess Shays. I haven't been there much. I don't want to talk trash about it because it's probably decent, but from what I hear, that's where you go to do yourself some cocaine.
Hey,
I'm not about that life. My drug is the oxygen around me and my own mania. So I'm crazy.
I thought you were gonna say something about like rock and roll or whatever. But
yeah, that too. Rock and roll, I guess, not craziness.
Where did so out of all this new FM stuff, where did Sad Giants? How did that start?
Oh, let's see. I had just graduated SDSU in 2014. I was working as an intern at Daktronics, and then Spencer was my drummer, and he was like, "I'm gonna get my master's degree," and I was like, "For a scientist, that makes sense."
Stupid Spencer.
And my guitarist Chris, I think he was 3-4 years older than me, so he had been out of college and like waiting for us to get done. But by the time we got done, he was like, "I need to do more things with my life other than wait." So he started going back for his master's degree for like project management and stuff. So like I'm fresh out of college, all full of this raucous energy, and they're both out trying to get their master's degrees and finding wives apparently. And so I just started playing, I just started writing songs by myself, and I bought a little recording table, and I was in a house in Sioux Falls. Just, I did a little project where I wrote a song every week so I could like build a little catalog. And by mid 2015, I was trying to tour around. I had whatever public broadcasting, SDPB. I had their magazine, like, "Ooh, look at this kid getting out there," and it was becoming super cool. So I was like, maybe there's something to my little, like self-contained song. So I started harping on that, and when I moved to Reno, I went to a recording studio. I was like, I have these songs, I think they're good, but I don't know yet. If we could try to make them into like full songs, that would be cool. And so I did, and I found a studio drummer. Well, the engineer at the studio suggested a drummer. He's like, "This is the guy I get for studio work," and the dude was cool. And then he became my drummer because he was like, "Want to be in a band?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then his old guitarist became my bassist, and so I stole them, and now I have Sad Giants as a band.
That's pretty cool. And by the way, I haven't heard a single thing that you've put out that's not good, just so you know.
Okay.
Because I remember going to Ground Round at a show, and I remember I was singing, and I remember my voice was gone the next day.
That was a good time because it was just everybody can go to that one. Like when it's over down in Sioux Falls, everyone's like, well, I don't want to like make the drive. But if it was just right in Brookings, everyone's like, yeah, we'll go drink at the Ground Round and watch your band. I was like, woo!
Yeah, I always enjoyed you rocking out because I could tell that you liked what you're doing, you loved it, and it made me happy to see that you were happy.
Well, thank you. And I'll need to tour out to Iowa City with the band and set up a show.
They do have some good spots around here. You should come. I can't remember. It's in March. Mike Jones is gonna come back, so we can rap to him and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah,
that'd be so good.
Yeah. And then now I want to ask about your comedy. So it sounds like that started all with Stephen Lynch back when you were younger. Yeah. When did you think that, I should go stand up on a stage and try to make people laugh? When did that first come across your mind?
I tried in high school once, but it was part of like a larger theater project. I was My theater teacher wasn't so cool, so she made me write out exactly all the words I was going to say before I went up on stage, and I was like, that's not conducive to creativity, but whatever. And so I did, and it was awful, and I never did it again until I was going. Oops, I'm punching stuff over here. Until I was going to that Wooden Legs open mic every Thursday. I was doing my music there every week, and after a while, I was like, I'm kind of tired of my songs. And so one day, I was just like, next week I'm gonna come here with some stand up material. I'm gonna try that. And so I had actually gone on like a trip all around the U.S. with my dad for fun. I don't remember what it was for. I think we were just trying to have some fun time off. And so I traveled the world and wrote some stand up. And then I came back and I tried it. It was not good at all, especially because it was my first time doing stand up and I just did 10 minutes, which is unheard of. Usually people do like 3 to 5 minutes, and I did 10. But from there, there wasn't that many comedians in that area, so it was like I was starting something, and Total Drag afforded me the opportunity to open for another South Dakota native, but more nationally known from Whitest Kids You Know, Timmy Williams. I was like, hey, I've been doing stand-up 3 or 4 times. Why don't you open for him? They're like, well, you're not awful on stage, so why not? And so after that show, and after talking to him, I was like, I kind of want to do this too. Like, this could be fun. And so I started, doing that every week instead of doing music.
The one I think I've seen you at least once, maybe a few times. The 2 things that I remember the most, and it's mostly because I got to witness them in person. When you say after your Taco Bell that your farts sound like a retarded or retired circus seal clapping.
Yeah, clapping circus seal clapping.
Yeah, and then the other one was when you 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 drank chips because you smushed them.
Yep, drinking chips. That's a live one. I did those 2 things in the comedy club here in Reno for a while when I first got here. I don't do them anymore. I'm off of my food and fart material for now. I might go back to it in the future, but it's good stuff.
So, like you said before, you have your podcast, Post Nuclear Reno. So obviously, it makes sense why Reno, because you are living there. Why did you decide to name it Post Nuclear Reno?
I was playing a lot of Fallout 4 at the time, and I wanted to do something that was like the radio stations in Fallout, where everything is fine, like they're able to broadcast, but also it's not because the entire world is messed up. So that was my idea. I was like, I want to create a comedy podcast, but instead of normal Reno, it's the apocalypse and everything is bad, but we just don't really let on that that's the case. And after a year, that really fell off because I was just trying to get people into my apartment. I was like, guys, come on to my podcast. Just say whatever you want. It doesn't have to be a character or anything. But now I'm just sort of modeling it after Comedy Bang Bang, where, like people can be weird if they want. If not, we'll just talk and try to be funny.
Where do you see, and also just in regards to comedy, where do you plan on going with that? Do you just see yourself just doing it for fun, or do you think that you're going to try to do, some sort of career out of it?
I would love to make a career out of it, but at the same time, like I feel like I'm better at music than I am comedy. Most of the people in Reno don't know that because I came here and just started hanging out with comedians, and I only started doing music shows like in the past couple months. But the comedy, I'm going to keep doing it and I'm going to keep making it happen because it's there for me when I need it, and it's not going to be going down anytime soon. And so, that's why I got my little 2-man show. And if I keep doing comedy, it affords me the ability to do sketches, do fun characters like my weird Walt Disney thing, but at the same time, focus on music still. So I would love to make a career out of it. I'm not going to discount it or anything. I'm going to keep plugging away at it, but music is always my focus.
Let's get back into your duo, your Nick and Bobby Act Weird. How did that all happen, and what exactly is that?
It was actually, so I was doing that Walt Disney bit at just a bar here in Reno at 3rd Street. And, it's not stand-up. It's a weird thing to have, like, a pre-recorded character come in and, like, do a whole thing. And so people really liked it. And my buddy Nick, he also does characters, but he usually doesn't do as much weird, like, back-end production. He, like, has the idea, he goes on, and he does something weird on stage as someone else. Whether it be Fat Gay Hitler from the other dimension, where Hitler got into art school, or just a guy who's really into fanny packs. Dick Aiken fanny pack enthusiast. Look him up. He's funny. But, it's just, yeah, no, that's true. But it was after I did that Disney bit, Nick was like, oh, this guy also does weird things. And he came up to me. He was like, you want to write some stuff together? I was like, yeah. And we went on a comedy tour up to South Dakota and then ended up at your wedding that one time. And then on the way back, we had watched Nick Kroll and John Mulaney's Oh Hello on Broadway on Netflix, and we were like, if those two can make like this dumb thing where there's just like these two old guys making fun of Broadway, but they got on Broadway and on Netflix, it's like if they can do that, we can do something as a two-man show.
Why
so,
can't
on the way back, we were just brainstorming weird ideas. That's where I came up with all my characters, mostly like Dusty Folds, the giant Asian cowboy, and the rapper Four Watches. He's real now. Four Watches is a real person. He's got a song about booties.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up here in a little bit. I do have to ask. So, like, what's your goal? Like, I'm not saying a 5 or 10 year goal, but like, what's that high hanging, goal that you want to reach? Whether it's with music or comedy or maybe you want to climb the corporate ladder at your, the place you work now. Like, what's the goal?
I think my main goal is to just be able to take all the things that I do, whether it be music, comedy, sketches, podcasting, and just make a living off of my creative endeavors, and that's obviously, like a big, making a living is always an amorphous thing. Like it would be like if I have a Patreon that pays me $500 a month, I could live with like 10 roommates and still make it work. But I'd like to make a comfortable living off of something creative I do. I would like to not have a 9 to 5 and be locked into someone else's schedule. I'd love to make my own and get out there and conquer the world on my own terms.
Cool. All right, last thing. This is called the Sports with Luke podcast, so we have to talk about sports a little bit.
Of course.
Did you watch the Super Bowl this year?
Oh, of course.
What was your opinion on the game?
I thought it was like a movie scripted game. The amount of tension they built into it, and the amount of like almost not callable touchdowns that the Eagles had.
Oh, yeah.
Like two of them, where it was like, I don't know.
Yep.
And like Tom Brady was playing at his best, but still not making it just because his defense was letting him get railed. But it was a fun time. I ate a lot of pigs in a blanket, and so my memory is a little hazy. But I thought it was a great game. I wanted the Eagles to win, and they did.
Yeah, I would definitely say it was a great game. Me being from Minnesota and being up, I mean, I've been up to the cities plenty of times, and seeing all those, like, all the stuff that was happening the week before, I got so excited, but then just remembered that it was not the Vikings playing, and
They were so close.
They
were so close. I felt so bad for them because they had come off such a hot win the week before their loss.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, no, they're losing. No.
Yeah, on my last podcast, I was talking to my buddy. He said it was going to be so hard to be able to reproduce that high of what happened, and yeah, we weren't able.
A miracle win, and then then they got so close.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have. Is there anything you want to talk about, Bobby?
Just listen to Post Nuclear Reno. It's on wherever you get podcasts. It's most likely not for you. Whoever's listening, it's most likely not for you. You can get. What I like to do is I like to let my guests roam free within whatever they brought with their brains, so that can get out of hand real quick. And if you're not a fan of that, I have much nicer things within Sad Giants, my band. You can look them up on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever. Our eponymous EP is out now. It's only got 5 songs, but if more people listen to it, we'll have another 5 out here this year real soon. So that's all I got. Punching stuff again.
I second all of that, what you said. Go check them out. Well, Bobby, thank you so much for talking, and hopefully we have one again soon.
Thanks for having me. I love this. I'm glad you're doing this.
Thanks, man.